Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We hope you are having a wonderful Ramadan so far. My name is Janan Sarwar, and I would like to welcome you on behalf of ITVusa to our live Ramadan special called Our Prosperous Ramadan. Today, I have the honor to introduce you to two guests. First, I have Belal Hafeez. He's a personal trainer and a fitness expert. His spouse, Nazima Qureshi, is a registered dietitian and nutritionist with a master's of public health. They collectively are the co-founders of the healthymuslims.com, which is dedicated to helping Muslims make healthy eating and fitness the easy choice. They provide evidence-based and practical online programs to clients worldwide. They also host in-person and online events and provide culturally relevant tips to make lifestyle changes. Belal Hafeez and Nazima Qureshi are the co-authors of the Healthy Ramadan Guide as well, a complete meal plan and fitness program, as well as an informational guide to help the community have the healthiest Ramadan yet. So I'm very excited to have this discussion with them because there's a lot of things they can share with us. So without further ado, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Walaikum assalam. Thanks for having us.
Jazakallah khair. It's great to be here.
Wayakum. We're so honored. Is there anything you wanted to share about yourselves that I didn't cover in that introduction?
No. It's usually uncomfortable sitting listening to people introduce us. It's usually okay. But yeah, alhamdulillah, you covered it pretty much.
Alhamdulillah. So, you have such a rich, unique background. What inspired you to go from what you used to be doing, and maybe you can share a little bit about that, to creating this and to create it together?
Yeah, I think we have always been doing this. So this is something that, we were always passionate. We were in the nutrition fitness field, and we always noticed that there was this gap, right? In terms of mainstream health and nutrition and wellness. There's not a lot of culturally relevant information, right? Things that the Muslim community can identify with. And so a lot of times when, and of course the Muslim community, there's a lot of various different cultures. But even just, okay, well, if I want to make changes, I have to give up the types of foods that I eat, and I have to eat, the Western way, say a salad and grilled chicken. And that's not very sustainable. And so that's why we kind of focused on, we wanted to kind of address that gap in the need and kind of help the Muslim community, make these lifestyle changes and make it a priority and make it simple for them.
Yeah, because a lot of times it doesn't necessarily suit our cultural needs that we have, right? So a lot of times they almost feel isolated, or if someone does want to be healthy, they feel isolated from then their family and friends, because the foods or the type of foods or even the type of things that they might want to do, they feel like they can't partake in, right? And that's not what fitness and nutrition should ever be, that. Right? It shouldn't have to turn your life upside down. Instead, it should be the opposite. It should be able to insert into your life seamlessly. And the only way you can do that is by, keeping your culture intact. Alhamdulillah, we have a lot of delicious food in our cultures. And our culture is very vast too. And there's a lot of Muslims from all over the world. And a lot of it you can make healthy if you just, make the right adjustments.
Absolutely. That is so important. I'll personally share that I have 3 children, and during 2 of the pregnancies, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. And I felt like it was very difficult to hear, as Nazima, you were just saying, about the specific foods that I was going to have to eat that are not normal in my diet. And, it felt, although I also have a healthcare background, it was just really hard. I had to compartmentalize that, and I felt very alienated and isolated. So I totally agree. I think you saw an important need. And, it also relates to some Islamic principles of us making sure we take care of our bodies. And do you mind expanding on that, of how Islam works in the work that you do?
For example, a perfect example is Ramadan. We often get people asking us, okay, how do we, especially in the beginning of Ramadan, you see a huge surge of people being very interested from a physical aspect of Ramadan, how to lose weight, how to get healthier, and various other goals that they want to set in mind. The first thing that we always kind of say is that, all of those things will be are not difficult to accomplish. However, our goal in this month, for example, in Ramadan, is obviously, spirituality. It's to be able to do more ibadah. It's to be able to do more, right? For example, to be able to sit for longer periods of time, to be able to stand in tarawih for longer periods of time without our feet hurting and our lower back bothering us. For us to be able to sit and read Quran for longer periods of time without our lower backs bothering us, right? Ultimately, that should be our first and foremost goal. But the good thing is, when we focus on those things, the weight loss and everything else comes along with it, right? You can't have one without the other necessarily, right? Because if you just primarily focus on weight loss, but you're not focused on getting a little bit stronger and improving your range of motion and improving the ability to take on more, then you're kind of leaving so much behind, right? And then that's where the two always go together, right? Because it's going to provide you with so much more energy, and now with that energy, inshallah, you can put it towards having a little bit more of a productive Ramadan as well.
Yeah. And we do know that, our body is an amana. And it's interesting because especially after a long fast, many people are like, well, I deserve to eat what I want to eat because I've been fasting all day. And yes, while we are technically allowed to eat what we want to eat, those choices have a significant impact on how we feel throughout our fast. And then even if you look, outside of Ramadan long term, that has an impact on the quality of our life, right? How are we, a lot of times we have many responsibilities. How we eat and the lack of physical activity sometimes negatively impacts our lives. So whether it's our mood, whether it's our ability to, do day-to-day things with our family, right? All of these are intertwined, and we have these responsibilities as Muslims, right? And our various responsibilities to do them in the best way possible. So, prioritizing fitness and nutrition goes beyond that kind of superficial lens, and essentially allows us to be better Muslims as well.
Absolutely. And a lot of times we lose sight of that if we're thinking of, the first thing when you think of Ramadan, of course, the fasting and the ibadah that we can give, but you just perfectly captured that, to be able to do both, to fast, and to pray and to worship. You have to have that health and the health conditions in a state where, putting something in our mouth, that's also the mindfulness that comes from, making these intentional choices during Ramadan that we're blessed to make. And Nazima, I've been following you online in the past, and you like to, I've heard about how you share about maybe the number of fried foods that people should be eating or should not, or, what do you have to share about that? I think it's very humorous, but also serious and interesting to talk about.
Yeah. I think I've been named the samosa police at this point, but I'm really not. I think it's important. Like, of course, there's that cultural aspect, and it's not about taking away, but it's kind of just reflecting. So for anyone who wants to, see what I was talking about, on Instagram, I have this kind of infographic I share every year. And so if we consume, say, 3 fried items, 3 samosas, I find samosa is like pretty, across many cultures, everyone can identify samosa with Ramadan. So 3 samosas, if you do that over 30 days, that's like close to basically 100 samosas in a month, which is an insane amount of fried items. And that was actually me kind of underestimating. I find generally people are consuming, I would say, anywhere from 5 to 7 fried items, right? A variety per day, per every single time where they're opening their fast. And so by the end of Ramadan, you've consumed hundreds of fried items. We don't consume this much, I would say, probably the whole year. But for some reason we do in Ramadan. And so what I usually recommend is, if you really love your fried items, stick to at least 1 a day. Right? Not one per item, just 1 fried item per day.
And not put like all of them together and like a massive, like, oh, it's 1 now.
And at the end of the month, you would have still consumed 30 fried items, which is still, I find, quite a lot. The other day I was speaking to someone and they were like, well, that's like having, 30 slices of cake as well in a month. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good, and she was not part of kind of the culture. And I was like, yeah, that's a good kind of way to look at it. But yeah, it's a lot of fried stuff. So just kind of limiting it. If you want to take it a step further, alhamdulillah, this year we're kind of out of that pandemic Ramadan and we're kind of more social. So maybe when you're at home, not making those fried items so that you're not kind of tempted to have them. When you're kind of socializing, maybe on the weekends, you'll have, still limit to 1 to 2 pieces. And so that kind of decreases it. Alhamdulillah, actually, one thing that we've stuck to is kind of a fried food free Ramadan.
It's not easy.
It is challenging.
Well, now it's pretty easy because we've been doing it for a few years now. But the first time we did it, it wasn't easy at all. Because, Ramadan's the only time of the year where, food and water becomes impermissible during the day, right? And so, at the end of that, at iftar time, you fasted 15, 16 hours. You're like, okay, now it is allowed. Now it is halal. Now I can eat. And then you're still saying no to certain things. It's probably one of the most toughest tasks you will ever ask yourself. But there's a level of gratitude that is grown, and a level of being able to fight your own desires that is able to grow in that moment when you're able to say no then, right? And for us, that's kind of, when you look at the spirit of Ramadan, like, what are we trying to achieve? Are we trying to achieve the ability to be able to refrain? Right? It's like, we both say this a lot, is, Ramadan is the month of fasting and not feasting. Right? And we kind of sometimes have to kind of come back and remind ourselves. And if you have like a one-off, that's fine. But when every single day always becomes about trying to see, trying to almost, fill yourself to the max, it kind of becomes almost counterproductive almost, right? When we look at, for example, Taraweeh, if we look at our Hafeez who lead Taraweeh, they actually eat very, very little at Taraweeh for them to be able to focus, for them to be able to then recite, which kind of, shows for the rest of us as well. We've all been there when we're standing in Salah and we're like holding our stomach, and we're like trying to stand straight, and our lower back's starting to bother us because we're like heaving forward, right? Which isn't the great feeling that we want to be able to then focus during Salah as well, right?
Absolutely. I will tell you, and I'll share with all the people listening, you have inspired me. I'm a personal example of someone, alhamdulillah, so far, I have been able to avoid fried foods. I'm not trying to brag. In fact, I try to hide that, especially when I go places, because sometimes even saying it, then everyone's trying to give you
yes.
But yeah, honestly, and the tips that I've taken away learning from you both is that concept of, taking your plate and filling it with the things that are good for you and nourishing. We're nourishing our souls, we're nourishing our hearts and minds during Ramadan, and, thinking of nourishing ourselves and drinking water and having the date to, really come back and balance us. And then, then by that time, I'm not even craving some of those delicious looking fried things.
And that's what Eid's for. Right?
Yeah.
There's no rules on Eid, right? Like, right? It's a day of celebration, then eat. And we have like legendary Eids where we're basically consuming food all day. But that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a celebration, right? And that's why it's like Ramadan comes 30 days. We're all going to regret the time that we spent in Ramadan. So if we can try to, at least say we tried to do our best to have more energy, then why not, right?
Yes, absolutely. And maybe I can ask you all to share. I've also seen that you have some tips about how to stay hydrated during Ramadan, as well as like how to exercise. So if you both don't mind sharing those two different concepts, I'm sure the listeners would love to hear your advice.
Yeah. So, hydration is probably one of the key things that many people struggle with. It's that thirst. And then, if you're not hydrated well, then that impacts your ability to be as active throughout the day as well. So with hydration, one thing to keep in mind is you should be drinking the same amount of water in a fasting day as you would in a non-fasting day. So that's kind of, splitting that over the suhoor, the iftar, and the post-iftar time. So usually when you kind of look at suhoor, anywhere from 500 ml to 750 ml of water. And the first couple of days, it's a little bit challenging, but when you start you start it by, I find the third, fourth day, it's quite easy to get that much water, and your body gets used to kind of getting thirsty at that time too, at that suhoor time. Then when you open your fast, opening up with 500 ml water, your dates and fruit, and also consuming high water content fruit, right? So your melons, pineapples, berries, these are all going to provide you with the nutrients, but also the water as well from the fruit. And then you are going to have your meal, so you don't want to overconsume water right at iftar time. So I would find 500 ml is a good amount. And then from post iftar to bedtime, you can consume about 1 liter to 1.5 liters. And then you also want to be mindful, like if you're going to the masjid, maybe pushing it after you come back from the masjid, just so that you don't have to do too many washroom trips. And it's interesting. I find one of the many things people say is like, oh, I'm going to have to use the washroom so much if I'm drinking so much water. But it's the first couple of days, and your body in itself gets used to it. Yes, you do have to still use the washroom, but it's not so inconvenient. And you find such a huge difference in your energy and just kind of that hydration throughout the day, especially because the fast it feels like the days are going into each other. And so sometimes you don't remember how much you've drank. So if you kind of split it up, okay, I have have to get this much at these times, it's kind of something consistent, and you're more likely to stay hydrated.
Excellent. Yeah. And what about staying active during Ramadan, Brother Belal?
So, the most common question I get is there's always, it's two. It's the first one is, can you work out in Ramadan? Then it's, when do I work out in Ramadan?
Right.
So first is always, yes, you can definitely work out in Ramadan. Your workouts won't be as intense, and nor should they be. But the goal is to obviously to increase your energy, right? Is to be able to have the ability to be able to take on more, right? And then obviously, when you're focusing on your mobility, you're focusing on strengthening, your joints and muscles, etc. It's going to help alleviate pressure off the lower back, because now your core has the ability to take on more, right? Because you're working and strengthening your core muscles, so your frontal abdominals, your intra-abdominals, your side obliques, your lower back, your back, big back muscles, your glutes. When you're able to work on from a more functional aspect, you're taking on, you're helping alleviate pressure as well, right? So when we kind of keep those things in mind, we know that, okay, relieving lower back pain will help me, pray longer periods of time. It's going to, help me be able to, do more about that, etc. And then it's going to help alleviate the feet pain and so forth, right? But then it's also going to have a huge impact on your energy as well. And for some people, if they've never worked out in Ramadan, it is tough the first time to do it because their body's not exerting that much energy. And then on top of that, you're fasting as well. But for most people now, obviously, we're a weekend, you're used to that fast, right? You're used to fasting and going longer periods of time without food. So you've adjusted pretty well. Now introducing workouts isn't a bad idea, even if it's something 15, 20 minutes, something small. If it's like a few exercises, say squats, push-ups, a plank, if you have ability to do a pull-up, something very simple. You can repeat those exercises of for 4 sets of say 10 reps each, and just try to see, and then take a rest when you need, and slow it down, and then try to get back into it when you feel like, okay, I've recovered, I can go into it. And you'll notice how quickly your body responds really well, and you'll actually feel a huge boost of energy afterwards. And then on top of that, even something as simple as going for a walk, it has a huge impact on your cardiovascular health, your mental health. It helps alleviate stress, makes you feel happier as well. And then you'll notice, again, a huge boost of energy afterwards, right? So for us, what we do is, we'll take the kids with us, and we'll be like, okay, we're going to go on like an adventure walk. And so there's times when I'll start running with them to try to, speed them up as well. Like I'll be like, hey, let's race to so-and-so location, like a certain post or a tree or something. And then that forces them to also have some sort of physical activity as well. And then we come home right before Iftar and so forth, and we'll have Iftar. So it has that family component to it too as well. So you're getting the kids involved as well.
Yeah, mashallah. These are really great practical tips that, also incorporate just how we can be a whole person, a whole Muslim, because honestly, a lot of times we hear about people who, as I was saying before, they think of Ramadan and it's all about fasting and feasting more, right? It's about the food they're going to eat, and that focus in the kitchen, as well as the repercussions thereafter, as you said, maybe praying and in salah, and you can't even focus, right? Because you have heartburn or some other problem. So, just what I'm hearing, and just to recap a lot of the things you shared, it's really, these are ways that we can make small changes, inshallah, that can really help us to help our health as a whole. And and then eventually it will contribute to us being better Muslims and being better parents, if we're parents, or just keeping up with a lot of things, because that's another concern, that if we are thinking about the many ways to pray and many ways to respect Allah and keep Allah in our hearts, we have to respect our bodies and take care of them as well. So that's really, really fascinating. I always ask every guest to share one thing about a tradition. We did hear a lot about what you've been doing during Ramadan, but is there anything special that you do that's in this month that you want to share with the audience?
I guess the one we do, there's a few. One we do at Iftar time is we usually, so instead of the fried foods, we actually cut up fruit. So the kids come together. We have a star and moon platter that comes out every Ramadan. And so they love kind of setting it up. So they've kind of take ownership of that.
Decorations as well.
We decorate,
Our goal, obviously, being parents, our goal is obviously our children first and foremost. So we just try to make it very festive for them. And then for us, especially like growing up in the West, we grew up, for example, seeing the winter holidays, right? Seeing Christmas time and stuff, where everything is just absolutely lit up, and it looks very, enticing. And even as kids, we were always really excited about that time of year. So for us, as being Muslim and being obviously from Canada, for us, it was always about just, okay, what can we do to bring that same excitement, if not more, during Ramadan and both Eids as well, and decorate and have these little things that gets them excited and, and happy and so forth. So I guess, yeah, most of our tradition that we've been creating the last few years has been mostly, I guess, around kids. The kids, maybe we could start one for just the us, but I think it's been around mostly just the kids.
Oh, that's really lovely. Yes. Great tips, great advice. Really, really enjoyed speaking with you. Is there anything you wanted to share about how people can connect with you or what they can do to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have the Healthy Ramadan Guide. I know it's been mentioned a few times. So it is a physical book. And so it includes, a full meal plan, grocery list, recipes, as well as a full workout program. And it has lots of great pictures, kind of, walks you through exactly what to follow. A lot of times in Ramadan, it's like, okay, you want to eat healthy, you want to work out, but what do you do? And so this maps out everything. It's a full kind of, 360 program. Alhamdulillah, this has reached over 30 different countries. So we do ship worldwide. And it's been amazing because there's, people from different cultures that have been able to enjoy the foods and see this change, right? From just following this. And they're able to actually follow this throughout the year as well. So it's not just kind of limited to Ramadan. So this is definitely something. We actually also have a sale on it right now. So if you go to our website, thehealthymuslims.com/book, you can get a copy, and inshallah, we'll ship it out to you. So it's still not too late. That's a great thing about Ramadan. It's 30 days. Maybe the first few days, people maybe have been feeling that, you kind of haven't been able to make the most out of it, but it's still not too late. So you can still definitely make those changes.
And then for social media, it's Nutrition by Naz and Stronger with Belal. And I spelled B-E, not B-I.
B-E-L-A-L.
B-E-L-A-L. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Just a disclaimer. I did not know these individuals before today. We just met and I have been following them online and they respond clearly. That's how we connected. But alhamdulillah, this is such impactful work that our community, the Muslim community, needs. We need more people like you. And we're really blessed to have people that are taking these very interesting career paths, very important work, and then giving it back to the community. So may Allah bless what you're doing. May Allah bless everyone listening and, have this ability to still, it's not too late, make the most of your Ramadan, consider how we can really reflect and be mindful about the choices we make, and inshallah. So it's been a pleasure speaking with you and getting to know you more. Inshallah, we'll hopefully stay in touch. And, for everyone else out there from ITVusa, just want to thank you all. And inshallah, we'll see you again tomorrow for our next live here on our Prosperous Ramadan. Jazakallah khair to everyone. And assalamu alaikum.